In this comparative study, I will explore the depiction of women in different cultural contexts by comparing and contrasting 16 Candles by John Hughes from 1984 and Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird from 2017 through the lens of feminist film theory. Feminism is the belief of a social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. Feminist film theory attempts to discuss the roles and participation of women in all fields of society. The chosen films are worthy of comparison as they are set in different timelines and were produced by directors of different sects. Directed by John Hughes, a white male director, 16 Candles, set in the 1980s, upholds traditional gender roles by depicting female characters as objects of desire rather than protagonists with agency in their own stories. The film reinforces a narrative where women are secondary, playing into societal expectations that limit their autonomy. Hughes' film, while a product of its time, perpetuates gender imbalances. In contrast to this, set in the early 2000s and directed by Greta Gerwig, a white female director, Lady Bird critiques outdated ideas, particularly those observed in 16 Candles, challenging traditional gender norms. The narrative unfolds around a young woman named Lady Bird who adamantly rejects conforming to society's expectations for girls. It criticizes women's oppression in a more contemporary context as it was released during Trump's rise to power, which threatened women's rights to their body across the US. The films will be analyzed through the following key aspects of the feminist film theory. Society exhibits a patriarchal structure where women are positioned as the subject class while men are the ruling class. In the patriarchy, there is a notable disparity in social equity between men and women. Women's roles are predominantly defined by men, resulting in women's limited rights. Women can gain empowerment and liberation through oppression, and internal oppression leads to women oppressing other women. Although they are set in two different time periods, both films explore the very relevant topic of the depiction of women in different cultural contexts, sharing similar and contrasting ideas. Both films explore the lack of social equality between men and women in the patriarchy. According to the feminist film theory, in the patriarchy or male-dominated society, there is a lack of social equality wherein men are of the higher class. These ideas are being emphasized through metaphors and symbolism consistent in both chosen films. Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird introduces a more self-determined and nuanced female protagonist, challenging traditional gender norms. Lady Bird embarks on a journey of self-discovery and rebellion against societal expectations, presenting a character with agency and complexity. On the contrary, 16 Candles by John Hughes, set in the 1980s, perpetuates a stereotypical depiction of women as submissive and reinforces traditional gender roles. The film's protagonist, Samantha Baker, experiences a narrative that aligns with societal expectations of the time, depicting her as a passive figure whose primary purpose revolves around fulfilling the desires and needs of male characters. Both films follow the journey of initially childish girls undergoing transformations into adulthood, denoting the coming-of-age theme. However, their portrayal of female protagonists diverges in terms of social equality and empowerment. In the patriarchy, women's roles are defined by men. According to the feminist theory, in the patriarchy, men largely shape the roles of women, meaning a woman's behavior, occupation, and opportunities are all heavily decided by men. 16 Candles can be critiqued for its portrayal of gender roles through the lens of the male gaze, defined as the act of depicting women as sexual objects for the pleasure of heterosexual male viewers. The film lacks subversiveness in its representation of traditional gender norms and, in some instances, can be seen as perpetuating elements of rape culture. The Women's Center webpage at Marshall University provides an insightful definition of rape culture, describing it as a society where rape is prevalent and sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. This lens can be applied to certain scenes in 16 Candles, particularly those involving Jake's character. Jake's dialogue, such as his comments about obtaining sexual gratification whenever he desires and his disturbing remarks about violating Caroline, contribute to a culture that objectifies and commodifies women. His lack of regard for consent and the language he uses perpetuate harmful stereotypes and normalize the idea that women can be treated as objects for male pleasure. Furthermore, the film fails to challenge or correct Jake's opinions about violating Caroline, allowing his successful pursuit of Sam to overshadow the problematic aspects of his behavior. The narrative, by emphasizing the triumphs of the male characters without addressing their problematic attitudes, inadvertently sends a message that sexual assault can be excused or overlooked. In the patriarchy, women have limited rights. This involves how in the patriarchy women lack basic human rights such as freedom of religion and social equality. Both films explore how oppression can lead to a stronger sense of unity and empowerment. The patriarchy has led to a rise in feminism coming in waves as it creates solidarity amongst women, contributing to their strive to liberation and empowerment. Both films also explore the impact of internal oppression, examining how patriarchy has indoctrinated a woman with a belief to such a large and oppressive extent that they too support oppression of ideologies, leading to the internal oppression of other women. Both films explicitly depict feminist film theory while exploring what it means to be a woman in two different contrasting contexts. Even though both films are set in different time periods, they still reflect the present daily reality of women and the damaging impact that a male-dominated society has on the world and the empowerment of women in the US.